inSTEM is a holistic mentorship and skills development program. We invite you to bring your whole selves into this virtual learning space. So before I turn it over to the experts, let's pause for a moment of mindfulness.
Hi, I'm Teri Odom, Charles E. Emma H. Morrison Professor of Chemistry at Northwestern University, and I'm also the department chair of the chemistry department. So I was recruited to Northwestern when I was still a graduate student, and then I accepted their offer to become an assistant professor. And I'm the first woman in the department to rise through the ranks from assistant professor to associate professor to full professor. And now I'm very excited and proud to be able to be leading the department at this time. There are many really amazing people and speakers that you can find on YouTube or just on cable. But for me, I don't really model myself after anyone else. That's not to say that I don't appreciate what others do, but I feel like my voice is sort of my voice. And I need to understand who I am so that I can communicate that in everything that I say. But I think one of the most important aspects is to find and identify characteristics and effective communicators that you can make your own. Because you're your own person. You have control of your voice and control of how you communicate. And if you can see what's effective in others, and then you can adapt it to your style because you're also an individual, then I think that's the best for creating more effective communication that revolves around you. The ability to project your voice and be confident in how you're articulating a message or an encouragement or an argument is quite important, because for whatever reason, how you communicate verbally is also associated with your confidence levels. So if you're a timid verbal communicator, oftentimes people will interpret how you think and how you are as a person as timid. But if you can be a little bit charismatic and you can show a little bit of your personality and you have control over this because it's your voice, then you become an effective communicator, partly also because of your confidence and not just on what your message is. How do you become a confident speaker? I think part of it is for sure practice and practice and practice, but part of it is believing it yourself. And so to be able to identify something that you think you're good at or that you're very convinced about in terms of your message or on explaining your idea will go a long way. So for example, I have 20 graduate students and postdocs in my research lab, and after every presentation they give, I always give them feedback on how they communicated, partly because I want to help them and train them as they're talking about their science to other people, but I also want their audience to have a good impression of them. And so, for example, especially for some of my female students, the way they present themselves can undermine their scientific progress or their scientific achievements. So sometimes when they're speaking, their voices will go up, like it's like they're asking a question when actually they're just stating a statement. And so that type can just be misinterpreted as either lack of confidence or that the scientific result is not important. And there are other examples of being able to be confident when you're speaking. So if you're speaking so softly that no one can hear you, then people likely wrongly assume that your message is not worth communicating, or that your scientific results or how you're thinking about a problem is not important. So really the ability to believe in yourself or believing in the message, and getting feedback on how you communicate that is really important. And I would encourage you to seek out all sorts of feedback from different people, from your friends, from your family, from your peers. When you're talking to someone just striking up a conversation with strangers, there's always ways to try to understand what people are trying to hear. And then if you can communicate such that they can hear it, then I think it ends up as a win. There are many different ways to improve in communication, at least verbally. And again, one of the things that I can't emphasize enough is to practice and practice and practice. So then the question remains, how do you go about practicing? So there are a range of different options, at least that I have tried over the years. One of them is to record yourself in the first 2 to 3 sentences of what you might say, whether it's a scientific presentation or whether it's a speech or whether it's, just an important conversation that you want to have. Record it and see how it sounds. Record it in video and then record just the sound. Because the thing about verbal communications, if it's associated with video, then there are other things that you want to do in terms of facial expression, in terms of maybe moving a little bit, maybe having your voice go up and down in terms of inflection. All those points are important to communication. And so if you can practice that with video and then without video, then you can see, well, what is an effective way to communicate? Say you're on radio. What would you have to do if you can't see the person and you are just having, for example, a telephone call? How would you need to communicate your message, or how would you speak in that situation? And contrast that with what you might say if it's on video, like this is, where they can both hear you and as well as see you. So there are different ways that you might consider communicating depending upon the medium. And I should mention that it's not easy hearing yourself. Your voice will look funny, your posture will look funny, but it's in these types of environments that you can just, in your own environment, you can be safe here, is to practice. And of course, another way to practice is to get peers to listen to you and to provide honest feedback. So feedback is critically important to understanding how effective a communicator you are. You might think you're the best communicator in the world, and you would have thought everything went well. But without some additional feedback on how was your message received, how did you communicate something that was complex, did it make sense, then you need some type of feedback. So I recommend people that you trust, but also people that can be very honest with you. They don't intend to hurt your feelings, but they definitely intend to help you become a better communicator. How do you craft a message when you're incredibly nervous about the situation? And for some, public speaking or voicing your opinion can be frightening. But I think there are a couple of steps that I might recommend that can help that so that the message can become clearer. So I think the first thing I would say is to make sure that you understand that it's only for a very short period of time. We have 24 hours in a day, and maybe you have a 5-minute talk, or maybe if it's a 15-minute talk, but if you can gather up the courage just for those 5 minutes or just for those 15 minutes, it's not forever in that day, I think that's really important. Second is try to take some steps to understand why you're anxious. And this can be done, for example, by writing them down. So say 10 minutes before you need to give a talk, write down specifically what your anxieties are. then you can also state them aloud. So you have to give a public talk, you need to practice speaking. Just start speaking out loud what all the insecurities are, what are the things that you might be afraid of for this particular event. And by just speaking them out loud, they just sort of go away. They don't totally go away, but they've been acknowledged, and then they're no longer in the forefront of your brain. I think that's really important. Third, take some time to calm your mind. Sometimes meditation works, or thinking about other things that are pleasant, that sort of calm anxieties within, I think are important. And then also just moving. So somehow when you're frightened, you get paralyzed. So everything shuts down, you get cold, but by physically moving, so walk around the room, clap your hands, do something that makes your blood move more rapidly through your body, makes your heart rate go up just a little bit, so that you're not just focusing on the one event that's coming up, but your whole body can be engaged. And if your body is relaxed because you're moving around, you're not paralyzed. If your mind is at peace because you've stopped to think about what you might want to say, you've written down these things that you're anxious about, and you've already said out loud things that you're anxious about, so you're preparing and prepping your voice, then I think these tips can be helpful, potentially beneficial in your talk as you get going. There's always room for improvement, and there always will be. So celebrate the good that came out of the speech or the presentation. Learn from the things that could have done better, but use it always as a learning experience. We can always become a better communicator. We can always become better people. And so we just keep journeying. We keep moving along in these directions.
We hope you found this useful. For more videos in this series, please visit us at nationalmedals.org/inSTEM.